Um, I watched this clip of um basically what's his name? Training Day dude, Ethan Hawke, doing a seminar, and he was saying how he thinks I think too many directors just come from the cinematography background and like, yeah, they make great pictures and it's great, it looks great, but
Mhm.
not enough people that have a background in acting are taking and directing because it's essentially the same thing. You're telling the story, and I don't know, like I don't know how you guys feel about that. Like, I do you is it necessary? Not necessary, but do you think it is more beneficial to have that background, even the
A,
small one, in
a
acting in order to
thousand,
be
a
able.
1,000%. And that's what we were taught in school too. Like, at least from my perspective, and the directing classes that I've taken, and not, and even before that, when because I only took two acting classes ever. I took improv and I took acting for the camera. I think it's called acting. Yeah, acting for the camera, right?
Mhm.
And in both classes, I was taught the same exact thing. A director should have a background in acting because the foundation of a film, whether you like it or not, is the story. What's in the story? The characters. So if you're presenting characters, you have to present their behaviors, their actions, their moods, whether it's internal or external. You got to present their conflicts. You have to know how they think. You got to know why they make decisions and what they fear, what they dislike. Like, there's so many different elements when it comes to putting together characters, and the only way that you're going to be able to communicate that effectively is if you were in the shoes of an actor. So you have to have that verbiage, that terminology, to get across your creative thought to this actor. Because if you're coming from this cinematography background, which is fine, you need that too. You need everything across the board. You need the technical aspect of it. You need the visual aspect of it to get great compositions. But if your character development isn't there, either it wasn't written in the script or your direction to the actor wasn't effective enough in that regard.
In that
So I
clip, he was talking. Go ahead, my fault.
nah, so I agree to a certain extent. Like I agree with the idea that we do have too many cinematographers that become directors, directors, sorry, because we see that, like, you could clearly see that in their work that they cared a little bit more about the camera than they did the um the story or whatever the case may be. Like, we see that all the time, and I do think that's a product of what the audience wants, in a sense, right? Like, we want to see shit blow up, we want to see shit look nice, stuff like that. We don't always care about the chemistry on camera or the characters, or are they fully fleshed out, et cetera, et cetera. Um, so I definitely agree with that. I would say that's low key how it kind of started, in a sense, right? Like how film kind of came about. It was more visual than story, and then story came later. So I always think the visual aspect of things is always going to be at the forefront. I do agree, and I also do agree that more actors should become directors, because I think that's a different viewpoint that we're not accustomed to, that we don't see on a regular basis. But I do say, no matter what your background is, that's going to show in your film, and I think in other aspects may lack. So if I'm an actor, or if I'm a writer, and I go and I direct, those two things are probably going to be more of a focus point than maybe some of those other things, like cinematography work, sound design, whatever the case may be, might kind of fall to the background. Um, but I think it's just hard. I think it's hard, and I think it's based in what we're doing. Like, when I'm watching, like, it's so great that we like, one of the things that I think that Marvel does so great is their stories are a lot more compelling than what we're used to in certain things. And I think that's where, like, DC is failing, right? Because I always think DC CGI, the way it looks great, like, it looks good, but then it falls sometimes in the character development, flushing out new characters, bringing those things. And I think that's what Marvel does very well. But you see, they get this really big team, so maybe that's something that should be done. Like, if I'm a cinematographer at heart and I want to direct a film, maybe I should go hire individuals that care more about other things that is not cinematography. You know what I'm saying? Because I can see how that can hurt. Like if I'm like what's his name that did Zack Snyder. You know, you could tell that he's a cinematographer at heart. So he's the cinematographer at heart, and he goes and hire a cinematographer to shoot it. Now you have another cinematographer at heart, and those are some of the bigger, highest positions when it comes to those films. So obviously the look of the film is going to be great. You know what I mean? You don't really have individuals that are just writers at heart, you know, that are just actors at heart that are in those positions. So I can see how, you know, there's a lopside to it.
And it's kind of tough to really say what's right and what's wrong, because again, we were having this conversation before about auteur directors with a particular style. If you want to talk about James Samuel composing his own films, like how many directors you know that do that? You have the Christopher Nolans, he writes and produces. Yeah. You have, Spike Lee, he has his way of writing and directing. And then we have Zack Snyder. He literally is the writer, director, producer.
Ben Affleck in there.
Ben Affleck, yeah.
Yeah, director of photography. So, like, everybody kind of has their selling point, their way of, presenting their ideas. So I'm all for it.
Certified real.
Hey, I'm a little excited.
You heard it here first. Certified real. Everybody.
You are now listening to Real Talk Podcast.
This is Certified